guys. Today we're going to be learning a reading strategy that will be one of many tools that you can use to help on the reading section of the SAT. And before we get started, I want you to think about a kind of text that is really challenging for you personally. So think about something that you've read either in school or outside of school that was just kind of hard for you to understand. I'll give you an example. I'm not a history person. I have to work really hard in history classes, so whenever I'm given something about history, like from a textbook or something that maybe is a little older, it's really hard for me to read, so I know I need to take it a little slower. Would anyone like to share any examples of kinds of texts that are really challenging for you to read? Katie?
In English class, when we read literature that was written a really long time ago, I think that can be hard.
Okay, great. Thanks, Katie. Ryan?
When I'm reading like science research, there's like a lot of jargon and terms I don't know.
Yeah, I also find that I have to go really slow when I read research studies like that. Okay, great. Thanks for those examples. So the strategy that we're going to learn today is called chunking and summarizing, and hopefully this is a strategy that you can use with literature that you find challenging or with research studies that you find challenging or anything else. So please open up to page 63 in your manual. Our strategy today has 3 steps. They're pretty straightforward, so we're going to learn the steps and then we're going to practice them over and over again until you feel like you've really got them down. So we're going to start with this description that describes our 3 steps to us. So on the page under where it says what and so what, please start reading where it says by determining. Joe, can you please read for us?
By determining the what and so what of each paragraph, and by relating these ideas to one another, you can determine the main idea of the passage as a whole.
Excellent. Please underline of each paragraph. That's going to be important to this strategy. We're going to be taking one paragraph at a time and analyzing it in chunks. So next we're going to hear what our 3 steps are for each paragraph that we read. So as you read each paragraph, please read number 1, Sadaf.
Circle a few words in the paragraph that indicate what the paragraph is about. This is the what, the subject of the paragraph.
Excellent. Does anyone know a word that starts with an A for what circling or underlining as you read? Anyone know a word for that? Yes.
Annotate.
Yeah, I also have it on the board right there. Yep, so step number 1 is read and annotate. You're going to read a paragraph and circle words or phrases that you think are really important. Please read step number 2, Will.
Summarize the paragraph in your own words in the margin next to the paragraph. This is the so what, the point of the paragraph.
Thank you, and please read step 3, Brian.
Make connections to previous paragraphs. Does the paragraph discuss a main idea or supporting details? How does the paragraph relate to the rest of what you've been reading?
Excellent. So we're going to sum all of that up into 3 simple steps. I'd like you to write them down on your note-taking sheet. Step number 1 is read and annotate. Step number 2, summarize. Step number 3, connect. Your note sheet should look like what I have on the board right now. So remember, step 1, read and annotate. Step 2, summarize. Step 3, connect. We're going to practice this together and then I'll give you a chance to practice it on your own. The passage that we're going to be reading has some challenging vocabulary that I'd like to preview for you. So please turn to page 26 so that we can take a look at this together. First, we're just going to practice saying a couple of words that might be challenging to pronounce. The first word is Natari. You say it.
Natari.
Second word is Gorma. You say it.
Gorma.
Excellent. And then we've got a couple of vocabulary words here that may be new or unfamiliar. So what I'd like you to do is skim through the passage. You can see the line number where you can find each word. And if any of these words are unfamiliar to you, just circle them and jot down the meaning in the margin. I'll give you about a minute to do this for any words that are challenging. Alright, thank you. Did anyone learn any new vocabulary words as you were going through this list and finding them in the text? Yes?
I didn't know what lunar was.
Yeah, isn't that kind of interesting? Winter is having to do with the moon, so that'll be interesting as we go through and see how that relates to our passage. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Remember, we've got our 3 steps up here. I've got them on the board, and we're going to practice them over and over again. For this first time through, I'm going to read the paragraph out loud, and then as I'm reading, I'd like for you to do this step. Read along with me, and then annotate. And by that I mean underline words or phrases that you think are important to the main idea. We're just going to do step 1 for now, then we'll pause and do steps 2 and 3. So can I just get a volunteer to recap what your job is while I'm reading? Yes?
Read and annotate.
You got it. All right, so get ready to read and annotate. Here we go, paragraph 1. There are few watches in Atari because its people distrust them. The school teachers wear watches, as does the agricultural advisor. The clock time only helps these people when they are talking to each other. The Natari believe that clock time isn't universal. It's a conspiracy amongst those who wear watches. It does the teachers little good to say that school will start at 9 o'clock when all the children are busy looking at the angle of the sun. So go ahead and finish up circling or underlining words or phrases that you think are important. And please get ready to tell me what an example of a word that you circled or underlined. Can I hear what you circled, please? Will?
I circled clock time isn't universal.
Anyone?
5 or 6.
Excellent. Did anyone also underline that piece? Not twice if you did too. All right. Who underlined or circled something different? Joe, what did you underline?
Few watches and people distrust them. That's
Okay.
kind of what I have.
Excellent, thank you. All right, let's move on to our next step. Our next step is to summarize in a phrase or sentence what the most important idea in this paragraph is. So what I'd like for you to do is to think about what you just read, think about the words and phrases that you just underlined, and write down a word or sentence that you think captures the main idea of that paragraph. You're going to get a chance to revise your work, so just give it a try. Go ahead and jot down a phrase or a sentence describing the main idea. Great. Find someone sitting near you and share your sentences with each other. I'll give you about 20 seconds to read each other's sentences. Go ahead.
People in the time tell time.
I said Natari, people in Natari distrust
I wrote sorry clocks.
Yep.
I said
How do you get
Natari do not trust watches or clock time.
I said the people of Natari don't use watches.
All right, let's go ahead and bring it back together. Can I get one volunteer to read what they wrote down? Thanks, Will.
People in Atari tell time differently.
Excellent. Take a second, if you heard something either from your neighbor or from Will that you'd like to add to your answer, take a second to revise what you wrote. All right, excellent. So we practiced the first 2 steps. We're not going to practice connecting yet because we need another paragraph to connect to. So let's go ahead and move on so that we can practice that next step. We're going to repeat this process for paragraph 2. This time I'm going to ask one of your classmates to read. Your job is the same as before. While your classmate's reading, you should be reading and annotating, and then we'll practice summarizing and connecting. This time I'd love for Sadaf to read paragraph 2.
Sure. Nature and environment are what dictate time in Natari. Meetings in Natari are scheduled for one of 2 times, morning or afternoon. Morning means after everyone has gone out of bed, eaten, swept the courtyard, taken care of the animals, and walked to the meeting place. Afternoon is after people have eaten lunch, as soon as the sun cools down enough to allow them to walk across the village comfortably. While watching to go to an afternoon meeting once, I worried that I would be late. It's not yet time, a friend told me. It's still too hot.
Excellent. If you haven't already, make sure you've underlined or circled a few important words or phrases. And get ready to share a word or a phrase that you underlined. Okay, please tell us a word or phrase that you underlined, Brian.
Nature and environment dictate
Katie?
time.
Oh, thank you. Katie?
I really nature and environment too.
Joe?
I have morning or afternoon, scheduled for 2 times, morning or afternoon.
Will?
The sun.
Setup, did you circle anything when you were reading?
That's the first sentence.
Okay, great. So use those keywords and phrases that either you or your classmates circled or underlined, and go ahead and practice writing that short phrase or sentence summary. Go ahead and compare notes with the neighbors, see what they wrote. If you don't have something written down yet, go ahead and finish that up.
Just use the first sentence of the paragraph.
Yeah, I said the people of Natari use nature to tell time.
I did that too, I paraphrased it.
All right, then go ahead and come back together. Please read us your sentence, Joe.
I said the people of Natari use nature to tell time.
Excellent. Will?
People of Natari tell time with nature.
Okay, we've already all got kind of similar ideas here. Excellent. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to this last step. This last step is the most important because it helps us put all the pieces together. You need to identify what the connection is between what you just read and what you had read in previous paragraphs. So think about the main idea that you had for this paragraph, the main idea that you had for the previous paragraph, and see if you can identify how they are connected. Does, for instance, an idea get introduced in paragraph 1 and then get explained in more detail in paragraph 2? Or do you get one idea in paragraph 1 and learn about the opposite in paragraph 2? Think about what that connection is between paragraph 1 and paragraph 2. When you think you've got an idea, jot it down in this connections box next to paragraph 2. Explain how you think that paragraph is connected to the other paragraphs. When you think you've got a good idea for a connection, turn back to that same partner and share what you think the connection is and see what they think.
I think the first paragraph tells us they don't trust watches, but then the second paragraph is telling us that
Yeah, I think
do
the second one
trust
adds more detail. As Will said,
Don't
for the first paragraph, people tell time differently, and then that second paragraph kind of expands and telling us how they tell time differently, that each nature instead of watches and things like that.
Yeah, it said something similar, so the first one gives an idea, and the second one gives more details.
So if you had a great idea for a connection or your neighbor had a great idea for a connection, why don't we get some volunteers to share this with the group? Who would like to share their connection? Thanks, Katie.
So the first paragraph tells you that they don't trust clocks or watches, but then the second paragraph tells you that they do trust nature and the environment.
Interesting. Anyone want to elaborate on that? Have anything to add? Joe?
Yeah, in the first paragraph, it just talks again about how they don't trust watches, and as Will said, which I added, people of Natari tell time differently, and so then the second paragraph just expands on that and shows us that they use nature to tell time instead of those watches. So I think the connection is just that second paragraph is adding more detail to that first paragraph to the story.
Okay, great. All right, we're going to try one more paragraph together. This time I'm going to let you do all 3 steps in a row. I'm not going to stop you after each one. So we're going to have a classmate read. While our classmate reads, what are we doing first, Brian?
Reading along and annotating.
Excellent. Once you're done annotating, what's your next step, Will?
Sum it up in like a phrase.
Excellent. And then we only practice this one time, but after you do that summary, what's the third thing you're going to do, set up?
And then connect it to the previous paragraph.
Excellent. Any questions about what you're about to do? Can I get a volunteer to read for us? All right, Joe's going to read for us. Remember your job when Joe is reading. Go ahead, Joe.
When the people of Natari need to mark more specific points in time, they peg them to the things they can see. If they need to be more specific than morning or afternoon, they indicate the sun. What time are you leaving for the market, you ask. When the sun is like this, they tell you, pointing to the place in the sky the sun will be at the given time. They use the sun to indicate all times of day when the sun is up. Any time after that is simply night.
So go ahead and do steps 1, 2, and 3 for that paragraph. complete summary. Would you mind sharing that later? About the connection, can you share that with the group? Alright, go ahead and finish up. Y'all should be pros at this by now, so get ready to share your responses. First, let's hear about step 1. Please share some words or phrases that you annotated well.
I said they indicate the sun and the place in the sky the sun will be.
Fantastic. And please share that summary, Katie.
I wrote they use the sun to indicate specific time.
Excellent. And Sadaf, share that connection that you had.
I said in the third paragraph, we learned that their method is still complex. It's not as simple as we thought in paragraph 2.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because it's giving us more detail about what that more advanced method of telling time is. It may not be as simple as we originally thought. Okay, great. So you're about to do paragraphs 4 and 5 on your own. Does anyone have any questions about the steps before you start trying this on your own without the help of your classmates? Okay, well I'm going to move on. Have you do our 3 steps for paragraphs 4 and 5. I will not interrupt you. I'll give you just a couple of minutes to take care of it. Okay, so you can go ahead and begin. And I think that's the end of my lesson. Yay.